another show on Your Schools in Action. We want to welcome you all, and this whole ongoing series that we're doing is to give everybody in the community an opportunity to be educated with with what is transpiring in our community, what is being developed, and we want to give everyone an opportunity that can't take the time to be able to see it in action. And once again, we have Dr. Matson with us today, and welcome and thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank
we
you.
have two distinguished guests. Many of the people in our community are very familiar with our senior, Al Eward, and he's been here in Forest Lake for as many years as I've been, and I think he and I have done, I'm going to say, at least 15 different TV shows together over the time. And Court, I thank you and welcome you to the
Thank you
the
very
show.
much.
And Court Nelson, and he's a alumnus also. So what we want to talk about today is the Hall of Fame. And Dr. Matson, would you please give the community an opportunity to find out what is the Hall of Fame, how it developed, and things of this nature?
Certainly. Well, in 2011, it was our 100th graduating class in Forest Lake area schools. And so we decided to start a number of different things to commemorate that. Lake Fest was one of the things with the Chamber of Commerce, the City of Forest Lake, and the school district that we worked on. It started as a 2-day event, and the Hall of Fame was actually part of that. We had not had a Hall of Fame for the community prior to this, and so we decided that this would be a great way to recognize the people in our community that have either contributed to the community and or the school district, or those that have graduated from Forest Lake Area High School and have gone on to do great things in many different capacities. So we put together an application process. We had a selection committee that spent a lot of time going through all of the applications, and that first year in 2011, we had over 100 applications for the Hall of Fame. That year, we had 65 members that were inducted into the Hall of Fame. In 2012, we had 10, and last year we had 2 members that were inducted. We have 22 women that are part of that, and 55 men that are part of the Hall of Fame. I have to say that it is an event that people look forward to. Typically when we have 2 events that acknowledge the people that are inducted. We have one that coincides with the high school, with the academic awards. So we have thousands of dollars of scholarships that we award students at the end of the year. And with that particular program, we also recognize our Hall of Fame inductees. So it's a great way to celebrate the students and how well they are doing and what their hopes and dreams and what they're going on to. And also for them to hear are people that are in our community that are doing great things, or that have graduated from Forest Lake, perhaps have left the community, but again are being recognized for all that they do. We also then have a reception that has been held at Forest Hills. It's a little more casual for people to interact, for families to be there, community members to be there, those that have been inducted to have a chance to talk, to get to know each other, or to rekindle some old friendships perhaps at that event. So we've had those 2 recognition events every year. It's been very successful. People at the end of those ask, so when is it next year? They're anxious to do that, and it's really that time of celebration. And I think people have heard me say more than once that I think one of the things about our school district and our communities is that we don't have enough celebration of the great things that happen here and the great people that either graduate from here and or live in the community, and this is one way in which to do that.
As a little sidebar, I did a TV show on inventors that live in our community and patent holders in our community. And we have 27 inventors that currently have products that are being sold commercially, residentially, and we have like 87 people that live here that hold 1 or more patents. That's significant, and that took a lot of digging, but I was able to dig it up. Before, before I go much further and we really get into it, I want the community to know something about Dr. Matson. It's a very interesting subject. I am very, very proud to tell the story because I only know one other person that I've ever been involved with, that I've worked with, that has accomplished the same goal. And that is that Dr. Matson started out in elementary school here, went all the way through, graduated from high school, went on to college, turned around, came back to Forest Lake after graduating, went on for her master's, went on for her doctorate, and then became superintendent of Forest Lake School Districts. Number one, she's the only woman that we've ever had in Forest Lake, and she's the only woman in the state of Minnesota that has accomplished that goal. Now, I congratulate you for that, and I only have one other person I've ever worked with that has done that goal, and he started working in unloading boxcars and became the CEO of a major corporation, and it's based out of St. Paul, Minnesota also. So with that information and moving on, that's a kind of recognition. Now, those are the kind of things I think we need to let the community know what this is all about. Now, I'm going to go to our senior member of the panel, and I'll give the community a little history. Let's hear a little bit about Al, even though I think we've talked about many things, but I've never asked you about Al. Tell us the story about Al Ebert.
How far back do you want me to go?
Well, at one point in time, you made the statement that you've been here longer than dirt. So let's start in the beginning.
Okay. Well, I came to this fair city of Forest Lake in 1973. And I was hired at that time by the American Legion to manage the American Legion. And so I was at the Legion for 1 year, and then the VFW came along and offered me considerably more money than the Legion did. So being a little bit greedy, I guess you could say, I made the move. And funny thing about it is I came right back to the Legion after 4 or 5 years, and but not as manager, just as a active member of the Honor Guard, and I was the that's not CEO, it's CD, and anyway, the leader of the Honor Guard, and so I don't know how many veterans we have put down in those years since I've been here. But that was my passion as far as being a veteran. I'm a World War II veteran, and just this has to be done. You have to take care of our veterans, and that's the last thing that we can do is make sure the families are taken care of and that they get that the veteran gets a proper burial. And other than that, I'm still quite active also in the VFW. I'm a life member of the Legion, I'm a life member of the VFW, and a life member of the DAV, Disabled American Veteran. And I've been very active with the Lions Club. And the big program that I've been involved with as far as the school is concerned is the things that we've been able to do with the schools, starting with the elementaries from K through 12, and that is our drug awareness program. And I've been chairing the drug awareness program for the Lions Club for the past 22 years. And it's these type of programs that I think are so great that our school District K through 12 has always been so helpful, and along with that program, then we also have a Legion program that for the kids in first and second grade, and that is the honoring the American flag and teaching kids what to do when the flag comes by at a parade and at the schools, and all these programs have been so helpful in the community, and teachers, principals, and Superintendent Linda. I am so proud. I'm so proud to be a part of the school district and the community. And I guess that's about that's all.
Okay. I do have more questions for you.
Okay.
I'm going to let Cortland, I don't want him to feel left out. Now, Cortland, why don't you give us a little history on yourself, where, how and what, where, when with the schools, and then we'll let you expound on any other area that you find that the community would be interested in.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm glad to be here today. This is fun to talk about. I graduated in '68, so went through junior high and high school here. And for some of your viewers, that was at the old high school. And so it was junior high and high school in the same building. And I think we graduated probably 150, 175 a class. And left at that point, and of course, I think the school changed dramatically after that. The new building was built, and I don't know what happened with the changing of district boundaries or whatever, but it went from not a very big school to a really big school in pretty short order, near as I understand. My dad, Neil, was a teacher at the school, so there was that connection, and I had two brothers that were here, Chris and Nathan. But I left in '68, and I went to school at Augustana College in Sioux Falls, and graduated from there in '72, and didn't know what I wanted to do. I was a liberal arts major and didn't have any particular game plan at that point. So I worked for a couple of years, and then I ended up going to grad school out at Utah State in natural resources, and that was the profession that I went into, and very, very much enjoyed that. And both the foundation here at Forest Lake, which during the '60s and '70s had some incredibly strong teachers. Irv Harper, who many people had in science, was a great professor. Gwen and Mark Hansen produced many great students, curious people who wanted to get out and see the world, make a difference, and did a number of things. One of the most interesting facts about my class, which I always mention because I think it's tells about the character of the people, but also the school at that time. There were 8 women who got MDs or PhDs out of a class of 130, 40, 50, which is a pretty amazing number at that time. And I think that the foundation of good academics and extracurricular stuff, of course, the gals, this was pre-Title IX, so that was unfortunate. But it was a relatively small school at that point in time, and I think changed dramatically then after that. So my memories, of course, are somewhat different than Linda's and those from her era, which was a whole different format and a much larger environment.
What did you, through the process, what did you take out of the school district that helped you move along to develop an interest in what you ended up going to college and graduating for, and things of this nature? Was there any one influencing teacher? Was there an influencing subject? Was it just, with having your dad a teacher? By the way, a little sidebar, was that ever a hassle, having your dad a teacher in school?
Well, no, it actually wasn't. In fact, I'm the one son who, for whatever reason, I didn't take Dad's classes. And I thought that was
Smart.
Smart, yeah. Both my other brothers did, and they did better in school than I did. So I don't know what that's all about, but no, I wouldn't say there was any particular thing at that time. It was a good academic environment. I think Floyd Cahoose ran a good school, and there was some discipline. Maybe there are a couple of things that I'd point out. Raleigh Nelson ran a great music program for decades, and many of your viewers, did something in that era. And the reason I mention that is that I think fairly rare at that time. I mean, they really went coast to coast on trips, and I think he did a wonderful job of getting young people out. And if you didn't play an instrument, there was a flag to hold, or there was something else to do. He made sure that you got that opportunity. So the world was maybe a little bigger than might have been the case in some other places. We had real solid sports. Jack Connolly ran a good athletic program and hired a number of good people who came in that were successful, whether it was wrestling or track, or in my case, basketball. Ralph Streeter had a highly regarded debate program, and a number of students went on to do well, and I assume they became people who got involved in some form of either avocationally or vocationally, public speaking, or became attorneys or whatever. That was an important element. So it was just a real good, solid foundation for lots of people like me who went on to do some other things. We were talking earlier off camera, it was during the time of Vietnam, and so for the guys, those who went on and did something other than go to college, likely their life got altered in one way or another with the Vietnam War. Others who went off to some kind of trade school or college, you made that choice. So it was an interesting time from that point of view also.
So your graduation class from high school is like 175?
I think that's about right, yeah.
170,
Yeah.
okay. Now, getting back, Al, when you graduated, how big was your graduation class?
We had 62.
Now, you came from up on the range, right?
No,
Where?
southwestern part of the state, Mountain Lake. It's 45 miles southwest of Mankato.
I see. And you had 45 in your graduation class. Now,
62.
62.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Did you play sports in high school?
Oh, yes.
Okay, why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, my parents, of course, wanted me to get into music, and so they got me a trombone. So I had the old slush pump going, but in those days, they didn't. I was very much interested in sports, and of course, they would have classes in trombone and in chorus, always during either a recess or something where we could get outside and play, and I finally said, to heck with it, and I quit everything as far as music was concerned, and they didn't have counselors in those days to counsel you, and so consequently, I never took a music lesson in my life, singing or otherwise. But in sports, I lettered in track, baseball, football, and basketball. I played them all, and my senior year, we got as far as the regions in basketball, and I did make the regional team, but we got beat by, still grinds me every time I think of it, by a little town of Truman.
We don't want you to get upset.
And we were all set for the championship game. We were going to be playing Mankato, yeah. And Louis Todman at that time was the basketball coach at Mankato, and we were his nemesis because we beat them so many times in playoffs. But this year that was not to happen because we didn't get there. So and I guess that's about it as far as sports is concerned.
Now, upon the graduation from the school that you were at, through the process, as I asked Court, what gave you did you have any special classes, special teacher, somebody that helped give you a direction or bring you into what you ended up doing for what you have had as a very successful life?
Well, you remember one thing, that I graduated in 1943, and of course, World War II started in 41. And that's the only thing we had to look forward to, what we were going to be doing. It's soon as the day you turned 18, you got your letter from your friends and neighbors have selected you to go into the service. So, just to go back to 1941, and it was on a Sunday, and we had an ice cream shop there, Worthmore Ice Cream Shop. And there were 6 of us guys, 4 were 2 were juniors and 4 of us were sophomores. Just sitting in this ice cream shop and listening to the radio. Of course, there wasn't any TV at that time. And so we were eating ice cream cones, triple ice cream cones for dime. If you just got one scoop, that was a nickel. So you naturally took the 3. So we're eating ice cream cones, and the radio, the news came on that what happened at Pearl Harbor, and we just sat there dumbfounded, and we knew where we were going to be in for the next how many years, and so that basically governed what you were at that time, what you were going to be doing. Of course, then we got out of. When the war was over, we got out and made use of our GI Bill and got some of our schooling in during that time. I didn't get that much. I got a couple of years of Minnesota School of Business. And so that was about it as far as...
What branch of the service were you in?
I was in the Army.
You were in the Army?
Army,
Yeah.
and...
Was there such a thing as a draft deferment back then?
Deferment?
Yeah, where you didn't have to go?
Oh, there were deferments. Yeah, if you were the person that was supporting your mom and dad, for instance, and that sort of thing, then you were deferred. Yeah.
And didn't they leave some farm kids to stay work the farms if
one
you
farm
were
kid, right?
if you were gonna involved in agriculture?
Yeah. My oldest brother got that turkey. Anyway, but anyway, so.
What did you do as far as using the GI Bill? You went to 2 years of college. What was your goal by going there?
Sales and advertising.
And did you ever
Yes.
do that?
Yeah, I went into sales and sold cash registers and McCaskey cash registers. I'll never forget them. We were the first cash register to have the gallons and everything registered right on the cash register. That was a big sale. That was a big item. And so anyway, it panned out okay for a year, and being married, and we had one son, and then my wife Bev was pregnant again, and she was Rh negative, I was Rh positive blood type, and so we ended up having to every 2 weeks, blood samples sent to New Jersey. They didn't have all the equipment at the University of Minnesota then or anywhere. And my wife was an anesthetist also at that time. And so we, at that time, which doesn't sound like a lot of money today, but we were over $5,000 in debt just in the laboratories alone. And so I had to quit selling and take a job with the Great Northern Railroad. And as a switchman, I was with them. And then the Korean War came along, and I went to the arsenal in New Brighton and worked at the arsenal, making 50 caliber ammunition. So I worked the extra board on the railroad and then also the arms plant. But we got that $5,000 paid off, and of course then I quit. Then I quit the railroad and just stayed at the arsenal. Then when the Korean War was over, then I got into a new phase of managing bars and restaurants. So, and that's how I came to be in Forest Lake through the American Legion.
Court, when you were, what brought you back to Minnesota?
Well, I'd had a career in natural resource management in Utah and Arizona for about 30 years. I started out picking up garbage and cleaning restrooms as a seasonal guy, and had different jobs, and was a manager of a number of parks.
State or federal?
Yeah, state. Yeah, state of Utah. And then I went to Arizona as a deputy director of their park system for 6 years. So I lived in Phoenix, and then had a chance to come back as a director of state parks in Utah. So I was 25 plus or minus years involved in that. And I'd been the director for a bunch of years, and it was just time to move on. We were empty nesters at that point, and I thought that I wanted one more opportunity in the profession somewhere. I had been in appointed positions, and so there was a term limit to most of these, and there's a tenuousness to that. So you want to be a step ahead of events. And so I thought I'd end up with the federal government, and was kind of moving along that line, either the U.S. Forest Service or the National Park Service, and had started to investigate that and make some contacts, one thing and another. And then I got a call from my predecessor here at Minnesota that he was going to retire, and thought that was an interesting opportunity. I hadn't considered it, but was pretty curious about that. And so the interview was lined up, and I came back and interviewed, and so in 2004, then I started here with Minnesota DNR as the parks director, and moved back a block and a half from where we lived before, and in downtown Forest Lake by the old high school, and have been here 10 years now. Is
your wife a Forest Laker?
No, she's from Salt Lake City. We met in school out at Utah State, and she's an elementary school teacher, and when we got here, she chose to go a little bit different direction for a variety of reasons. So she works for Greg Tennis here in town at his law firm.
Oh, sure. Okay. Well, I'm going to get back to you now, Dr. Matson.
I'm having fun listening.
I'll tell you what, this has been very informative. With what you're hearing now is to the success, and it's two totally different directions in life, and how it all ends up coming back to Forest Lake. As far as the Hall of Fame, what can be done to really kick that off and with what you're hearing and make it go to the next level? What is your vision for something like that?
Well, I think to continue each year to encourage people to nominate folks, to recognize them. And I think it's, part of the benefit that's been even more than what I imagined was hearing the stories of people. It's fascinating to hear people's stories, what they've encountered, what they've accomplished, and to have that recognition. Also to bring, I think, people together. One of the things in our school district that we've talked about before is that it's over 200 square miles. And so it's difficult to kind of gather everyone together and to feel like we're one almost. And so events like this do help with that. You know, the first year when we had the reception at Forest Hills, we were not certain if anyone would attend. We thought, well, we hope someone comes to our party that we're having, but we'll see. So we invited, of course, those that were being inducted, invited family members, opened it up, put it in the paper to say people can attend. We were hoping for 75, and there were over 200 there.
Oh, that was an issue for Forest Hills.
Well, it was a good problem to have.
It was a good problem to have.
For all of us. And so the next year we wondered again, is it a first year thing? And then that's not going, is it going to continue on? And every year it has. Every year we have, 200 plus that attend. People want to be there, enjoy celebrating with each other, connecting with people. Perhaps you've heard someone's name or you know a little bit about them, but to have that time to have a discussion, to hear about people's journeys through life is a positive thing, and it's very exciting. I think, was Barbara Bowers in your class
She
of
was.
68? And as you
Yep.
mentioned, someone who, the women who have PhDs and MDs, she was inducted last year into the Hall of Fame. And it's very interesting to see people connect, get together. We've also asked Hall of Fame members to help us with that celebration. Does it seem like too much to have 2 nights in a row? One that's more of a formal recognition at the high school in the auditorium. And the second night really is meant to be a very short program and then a chance to interact. And and we've all been to events where, it's fine to interact and then we're done and we go. Or we've also been to events where it's great to get everyone together and that's all you need to do is to bring people together. You bring the right people together with interesting stories, with things that they want to share with people or learn from others, and the night just continues on, and that's what the Hall of Fame events have been. So we will continue with the Hall of Fame having those 2 events. I think we're pretty solid in that formal presentation as well as the more casual gathering at Forest Hills to bring people together. And I think it is that recognition. I think sometimes we just don't recognize, we don't celebrate the accomplishments that people have made in the community, what has happened with folks that have received their education here and then have gone other places and come back. And it has been kind of eye-opening, I think, for the school district, certainly for myself, even though I've been here for a long time, to learn about all the different people that are part of this community and in such a positive way.
When I started getting into the inventor side of things and finding out how many entrepreneurs there are in Forest Lake, it absolutely is mind-boggling. I mean, you get talking, oh yeah, I had this business and I sold it and now I'm retired at 40. Well, what business did you have? And then they tell you, you go, really, that was your business, multi-million-dollar business. They sold it and they've retired at early. And they all live here still. It's absolutely amazing. Now, out of the members that are currently in, how many of them, what kind of percentage do they reside still here in Forest Lake? Most of them? Did you have to go much out of the community to nominate it when you were doing your...
Certainly not, I don't know the percentage, but many of them are outside of the community.
They are?
Yeah, I mean, many of them are, they have, those that have graduated, many are not living necessarily in Forest Lake, although some certainly are. And those that we're recognizing that are part of the community that didn't graduate from Forest Lake, of course, for the most part, still live here like Elle, live in the community.
Can you envision us getting to numbers of like 500 members and 1,000 members and all this type of thing?
Well, I think so. I think as people are, thinking about because every year the conversation that happens at those receptions is, oh, I should nominate so-and-so, or what about this person? So you hear that conversation. Yeah. So I think it's getting people, and sometimes, you celebrate 100th anniversary or the 100th graduating class, and it's a one-time event. So we had to think about, were we going to induct, for example, 100 people that year and then be done? Or was it going to be something that was ongoing? And we were not sure of what direction to go, but made the decision to have it be ongoing rather than just a one-time event. And I think we made a wise decision in that, because it's, again, there is that conversation, and hopefully it'll be something that will continue on every year. That is certainly the expectation I think we have now, is that it will continue every year. It's part of that year-end celebration. We talked about Lake Fest. Now it's, in 8 days of various activities along the way. And again, it is that celebration of our kids, and we view graduation in Forest Lake as not an end, but a beginning. It's that next step into what's going to happen next. If you're going to go into the armed services, if you're going to a 1, 2, or 4-year program to continue your education. So not looking at that as an end point, but a beginning point. And also at the same time, then bringing in all of these community members, former graduates from Forest Lake, to celebrate kind of what they have done or what they're currently doing in their volunteer work, in their professional lives, is kind of a great coming together of those two ideas. And I think it's good for our graduates to hear the accomplishments of people when they're at that awards ceremony. And I think it's great for the Hall of Fame members as well to hear what our kids are doing as seniors in high school and where they're off to and what their plans are.
The greatest thing I see it offers is that it galvanizes the community from somebody as distinguished as Elle is in this community, to Court, and then there's going to be younger ones, and they're all going to have a chance to interface and hear and get to know each other. That is a tremendous value because so often everybody you go off on your own, and then you get hooked into your own little network of friends and all this, and all of a sudden this brings about, well, number one, they all had something in common, and to be able to bring that about in enriching each one of their lives, because you have a get-together like that, everybody leaves with a value and a positive thing that they're going, hey, that was really good, I didn't know that, or something like that. And these are the things that make the community and give the strength to the community.
I do think too, when you were talking about different teachers, and I was in that same era of having those teachers that were there. When I think of Raleigh Nelson, and I think of the Hansons in art and in chemistry, etc. I mean, Raleigh Nelson, when he first started, was my mom's band teacher. She graduated in 1948, and was also my band teacher. And I think he graduated right after in 77 or 78. And so it's interesting to have people talk about some of those folks that really made an impact on them, and they continue to do so throughout their entire careers.
Yeah, for the short time that my wife was a substitute teacher in Forest Lake, all the names you're bringing up, that all comes back to me is that we socialized with them on many occasions, and I'm going, geez, I wonder. I can remember when the Hansons, when he got into the landscape design business, he designed our first house for us. I mean, I'm sitting back going, geez, I forgot about all those names, and that is really something that is the strength of a community. That was really, really fun. Now, Court, if you had to, you know the positive things that you took out of the community and you were able to use to build where you are today, your character, your opportunity for employment, your career path, whatever. In conjunction, bringing back to the schools, what suggestions would you bring forward to consider to have in a curriculum that maybe they didn't have it then. The curriculum now is so more advanced than that. But what would you sit back and look and say, geez, I wish, well, of course we all wish that we would have done better, and we all wish we would have learned a little bit more instead of going at one party or something else doing studying. But those things, those are all history, and that's the character building of what you got out of Forest Lake too. So, but what would you like to see? Because of being an employer, as I am an employer, as Elle was an employer, I see things that I go, why wasn't this taught to them before? You know, why didn't they get it in school? And so what would you suggest that you would like to potentially see as an opportunity to, for the young people coming up through the system, that all of a sudden they can get their arms around and say, geez, I'd like to, that's something I could really get my hands on.
Well, I get asked that a lot in different ways. Relating it to the high school situation, I think there are probably three things. We were talking before about the whole business of government. And in our world, that has become a very, very big thing. When I was in Arizona, my first statewide job, I probably spent 10 or 15% of my time dealing with some financial thing. It's a big deal now. So I think one thing that I would suggest for really anybody at that high school level is to take a business class of some type. There's almost nothing that you get in anymore that you wouldn't benefit from having just a basic business class, whether you go to work for somebody else, you start your own company, you go on to college or anything else. I'd say that's one. And then I'm sure they emphasize at the school also the communication skills, different ways, different types, but the ability to communicate in written form, all the new tools of communications that we have now, or to be able to put a little presentation together and to convince somebody of a sale or of the need for something else, that communications. And then I think the other thing, which is you don't know how it's ever going to work out, but to provide opportunities for the kids to see what different careers are like and what's a skill set for different things. You know, some people know what they want to do as a high school senior, but a lot of them don't. And to be exposed to different considerations for a career or employment, I would think those would be the things that I deal mostly with kids that are in college and are looking to get into our career. They've had a couple of years of school, or they come out of the trades and they want to get into our trades program. We hire a lot of folks in that. And those are the things that I have shared with them before that I think hold true pretty steadily year after year.
Al, how would you respond for that?
I was going to bring up that the Lions have a new program now. It's called the Leos, and they're for kids from 9 through 12 at the high school level, and it's giving back to the community is what it's all about, and they get kids involved. I think they have something. It's a new program for us. That the program is in Lionism has been other cities or other areas, other districts, but in Forest Lake, this is a new program, and I think they have somewhere between 20 and 25 members of their Leos now, and these kids are doing volunteer work all over the place, and getting involved in the community, and I think it's just phenomenal what they can do. So it very much enthused about this program.
One of the things that I've seen, I hate to interject my own, but being a business owner and hiring, I hired someone this summer on an intern program from Forest Lake, and one of the things that I found with that I'd like to see is the ability to have the kids with more creativity with non-electronic devices. Mm-hmm. So often in our kind of business, you don't have, you can make a presentation and you can do a PowerPoint and you can do all this and you can go zipping through it. But what happens when you don't have those resources and you have to do it freestanding at a particular job site where there's an issue and by going to slide 43, it's going to answer that question. But to be able to communicate that in an environment that sometimes is hostile, sometimes confrontational, those type of things. And that was one of the things that this summer I ended up, the person I brought on, I gave him an assignment, and I went out and I bought a box of logos, and I said, I want you to build me a logo house. He goes, well, where's the instructions? There is none. You got to be creative. I don't care what it looks like. I don't care anything. I want you to build me a logo house. And you got all summer to do it. And so I set up a board down in the storage room, and I made him go down there. And he came back at the end of the summer. He says, boy, this was really fun to build this logo house. I said, I haven't seen it. I made a point that I would refuse to see it until it's done. He goes, well, I'm done. And I go down there, and I said, this is an unusual house, I mean, it wasn't like a regular house, like what we're used to. And I said, what, so I started going through all that. That was something that I found was extreme. He thought it was very beneficial, is to have to do something non-electronically, and he had to think it through. And that when he was done at the end of the summer, he says, that was a great assignment. He says, I'm going to remember that the rest of my life. I had to build a logo house. So it's something that I can see in a need. You had brought up something also earlier, Court, that I had run into, and I do a lot of presentations on career opportunities, and I'm involved with doing the presentation for the construction industry as a whole, not singularly, but broad-based. And I get involved with doing that with a number of the colleges. And one of the things that came out, and it was very interesting, is there was seniors at a college, state college, and a fellow from Hormel was there as a recruiter, and they had 3 positions for Hormel Company, and he put on a presentation. I was there, and he did a great job. And when it was all said and done, and we had career tables, and after it was all said and done, nobody went to his table. And I'm sitting back in my own mind thinking, out of every employment opportunity that was here, that was the best opportunity. And so afterwards, I told my son, I said, I want you to go around the class just casually and ask them why nobody went to talk to Hormel. And the first thing they all said is, well, we don't want to sell spam.
Is that right?
That was the first, and I'm going, boy, the power of advertising and the influence that was brought forth. I was going, wow, that was incredible. Of all the things, they didn't want to go out and sell spam. And there was a lot of vocations there. There was people that were, recruiting to sell water softeners, to go to work for, the big box companies, the Home Depots, the Menards, all these different kind of things. People were flocking there. Nobody went to the Hormel. So I went up to him. I said, can I apply for that job? Because I know what you're talking about, But that was something else that I thought, holy cow, the perception. And
They've never had sea rations.
that you can count on. Not one of them ever had that. But those are some of that kind of stuff to change the perception of the power of advertising to the realities of life. Is there's so many wonderful employment opportunities that you get away from watching the TV and knowing what the TV said. And I made a presentation on being a construction supervisor in the field and what that means. And I said, for people like, going to work for the DNR, they're outside all the time. They have a chance to be in the environment. They want to be out. They do all this stuff.
Independent decision-making.
Decision-making. You got all the attributes. You got everything that you would want.
Yeah.
And you make a very good wage. And, and they're kind of looking at me, yeah, okay. So, but anyways, that as being an employer, I wanted to have an input of saying, because that, to me, those are the kind of things that we really need our kids to be able to bring forth. And now I'm going to tell you one other thing, then we'll get back to the interview. I'm going to make every person that applies for a job build a logo building as part of the interviewing process.
It's a good idea.
And I found that to be kind of interesting that you know, but that was an interesting challenge for him. He goes, well, can I use my laptop? No. You can use a piece of paper, a pencil. I'll give you a drafting table. I'll give you all the stuff that you want to do, but that's what you have to do. So anyway, I want to get back. Court, the working for the various governmental agencies, how did you go about getting your job with them? What did you have to do, and what has changed? Because when you started, did you ever have to fill out an application for a job?
I don't really remember.
And I'll make the answer no. How's that? And how were you able to, put yourself into that position?
Well, at the time, when I got in full-time, it was very, very competitive. So I applied, and it was 9 or 10 or 11 months later when I finally got hired. I actually came back and worked on the farm and in Cambridge for a little bit while I was waiting to get hired. So there's, I think, similar to many situations now in a competitive field, it just takes a while. My daughter, having watched her go through the employment business here recently, it's your first 4 or 5 or 6 steps are either online or on the phone or on Skype. You don't go to an interview very early on in the interview process anymore. I think that's dramatically changed. We all would go in and sell ourselves a little and look good, and there was a presentation that went on with that. But I think in most professions, most government work, which is really what I know the most about, that's the last thing that happens when you finally meet somebody. You've got to go through all those processes. And people look for keywords in the application process, and that then will bring you into a pool. If we have an opening for a park ranger job in northern Minnesota, there might be an applicant pool of 700 or 800 using these key names and all these special communities that get access to applying for jobs. Then that'll get winnowed down to 50, and then we might end up interviewing 8 or 10. So it's in that level, it's very competitive. On the other hand, when we hire for the trades, when we hire for our office staff, administrative assistants, that kind of thing, it's more the background and the experience and resumes. I don't think those change much. You always want to be ready and prepared so that if a former employer is called, they will say good things about you. They'll be honest with you. They should know that they may get called. I think those are kind of timeless approaches to getting a new opportunity. In our world, you got to be pretty flexible because you may work down in the bluff country, you may be up on the Canadian border, you may be on the North Shore. And so my advice, including to my daughter, is, get in the system, and then after you're in for a little bit, the doors will open, just like we were talking about earlier. So maybe you get a teaching job that isn't the one you want, or you get a sales position that isn't in the place that you want. But once you're in and you've proven your stuff and you've learned some things, then generally doors open up and you can go in the direction. So I think some things are different, but other things are very much kind of timeless in the importance of finding a spot and getting into the work world.
Once again, getting back with Linda's accomplishment in Forest Lake, it's an interesting fact because of all your cohorts that you talk to that are superintendents when you have your superintendents meetings and things like that. With the Hall of Fame, are you aware of very many other communities that have similar programs?
I think there are communities that have Hall of Fames. I think there are some that have a long history of that. Certainly not every community does, but there's community, there's school. We've kind of combined the two together in Forest Lake. So yeah, there certainly are communities that have Hall of Fames.
Well, what I'd like to do is, if you have a closing comment, I'd appreciate the opportunity. We're just about out of time, and for this segment, and I would like you to have some closing comments. Do either one of you have any closing comments you would like to?
I would, first I want to thank you for coming up with the idea.
Yes.
I had great fun being invited, and as you made reference earlier, the social opportunity to meet and see people and names and connections, and whether it was family or friends or my dad or whatever. I very, very much enjoyed that part of it, and I think it's you're to be congratulated for having the idea and then the support of the various folks in the community to make that all happen. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I had quite a deal. This was four weeks ago today. Well, we had there were only two of us guys left from the platoon that I was with in World War II in the Philippines, and Ace Barton from Riggins, Idaho, was my ammunition bearer at the time, because I had already lost. I was a BAR man, Browning automatic, and I'd already lost 2 ammunition bearers, and the third one got his heel shot off, so there actually were 3 of them. And Ace got to be my ammunition bearer. He was 5'9", I was 6'4", and when we dug a foxhole, when he was deep enough for him to, then he wanted to quit digging, you know, and I'd have to get a little feisty with him. Anyway, he was a great guy. He was the mayor of Riggins for 12 years. He was forestry. He was in forestry for 34 years, and he lived at the base of a mountain there. And he always said, if Idaho ever got ironed out, it'd be bigger than Texas. And but anyway, I couldn't go to the memorial service for him for medicinal reasons. And so I called his daughters and asked them if we could Skype the ceremony. And they were all for it. So they had the funeral, or not funeral, I hate that word, the memorial service for him at the high school. And so they had over 200 people there. And they gave me 6 minutes to speak.
Oh, pretty good.
And they had a 10 by 10 screen up. We had we're doing it from the Legion, and we only had a 4 by 4 screen. But just to be able to see them and see myself, you know, and so I ended my little talk with singing the Soldier Boy.
Soldier Boy, you bet.
And when I got through singing, I got a standing ovation from over 200 people. It was
Congratulations.
What a feeling.
But just think of the electronics that they were able to see it here
Right.
with you.
Unbelievable.
It is.
And I think the other thing that is volunteerism. Just to let these kids get them started volunteering. In every aspect of the you want to speak of, you know, volunteer. Mm-hmm. Teaches more than anything else, really.
It's good for the heart, good for the soul.
Yeah. That's it.
All right, Dr. Matson, I look forward to your closing comment on, because this has turned out to be, this was very informative, very good, and the selection process of having these 2 gentlemen, you couldn't have picked any 2 better.
Yeah. Well, thank you both for being here and sharing your stories. And I think that's what the Hall of Fame is about sharing stories, building community, again, celebrating what is positive, seeing people come together in a positive way, and, you know, really being interested in learning new things about people that they may know or may not know. It builds strength, as I said, for our school district, but it certainly does for the community as well. And so I want to thank all the people that have nominated folks. I want to thank all the inductees that come to those ceremonies and to be part of that, to do things like this, to share their stories in the booklets that we produce, and to also thank you for highlighting this. These are, 2 people out of 77 that are part of our Hall of Fame. There's 75 other stories that are rich, that are exciting, that are interesting, that are surprising. And, we're happy to formalize that and bring that forward to the community.
That I would like, what we will do is highlight how people can get people nominated with the broadcast, and that I think will be very important for the community to be aware of that. And with that being said, I would like to conclude today's broadcast. Elle, thank you. As always, we have a great time getting together. Looking forward to many, many more. Court, it was a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you. This was an
And to
enjoyable experience.
have you in the community. I think that's absolutely wonderful. And Dr. Mattson, thank you again.
Thank you.
And with that, we will conclude.